Hey there, rulers. DMO73 here on our 10th anniversary of making content here on this channel. Today we are bringing you a feature match between myself playing Valentina 3 Blue-Black Edition versus Josh Furey with his take on the updated Umir. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoko.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, and to our guest lecturer members, Vite Ramen. Class is in session. Okay, so we are getting into it here. I am on the right playing Porcelain Statue Valentina 3, and Josh is playing Fake Key Umir. It's trying to use this silver key if it's going first to try to set up an Umir lock, or more of an Umir FTK, and we are well aware that we are going second, and so that is something we have to watch out for. And so our mulligans here are going to be heavily dependent on making sure that FTK doesn't happen. Because of the new card, Fake Silver Key, there is a way that you can get in the cheat in 7-drop Umir very easily when going first. You'll notice that I do not have my stone deck out right now. That is because I am dumb. We'll put it out here in a minute in the recording, but just so you're wondering why Jeremy's on the right side, there's no stone deck. That's why. I don't know what was going on that morning. But you see there, Josh does have the FTK in hand. He has Umir, he has Fake Silver Key, and then he's ready to go. He's going first. It is not protected because he isn't playing the, at least main boarded, he's not playing the pitch Umir to be able to discard it. So he is a little bit vulnerable, but I also have Mirror in hand. So I'm fully prepared to just pitch a water card out of hand to keep my hand size good there, just to make sure that the Fake Silver Key, the first one, doesn't resolve. And we are going to be safe to go. So the other reason why I did not use coin there is because we do want to be up on will, so burning hand resources there is kind of fine, especially since Mirror would also draws a card. So goes in for another Fake Silver Key. We hard slam the Mirror and say like, no, I do not want to deal with that. I'm going to go ahead and replace the card and keep my hand size up and make sure that doesn't happen, so we don't get killed, because we do not want to die. And then we'll go in from there. Go to my turn, because Josh doesn't have a follow-up there. He has the two Umirs in hand. I try to go call stone and then go, wait, where's my stone deck? Like I said, I'm dumb. So we find the stones, you can get those in there. That's the sideboard, Jeremy. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years. You'd think I would know how to set up a board, but nope, clearly not. So we're getting into it here. Getting the stones all shuffled up, and we're going to call that first stone. We do have Vacus in hand, which is also going to be very helpful. Hitting a stone of the Black Pearl here. Going to get our mana value up by trying to play a Professor Shiitake. Again, we want to be up on resources here because we are a Spell Slinger deck. We use a lot of chance. We want to be able to burn will into stuff. And we have X-Cost chance as well, so we want to keep those up as well. We see a Investigate of a Chubby Five-Tailed Fox. We still have access to quite a bit in hand. Not a ton of interaction here if he does have the Fake Silver Key. Again, we're in a little bit of a rough spot. But we can try to draw into something thanks to the coin with Chubby Five-Tailed Fox. So not completely out of it here. Just a little bit of a potential weakness to see what happens here as he follows up in his second turn. We do see just a cast... free Gate of the Silver Key getting cheated in thanks to the sub-ruler at the beginning of the turn. Has to pay 4 for it right now because Fake Silver Key isn't live. Does have an Arlequin, an Arrival of the Conqueror, and 2 Umirs in hand. So not a super great hand here for Josh. We're going to go ahead and go for that Arrival of the Conqueror. Going to try to get me to get rid of my Professor Shiitake, and he's going to try to rip 2 cards out of my hand with Quick Cast. We're going to float blue. We're thinking about if we want to try to use this last movement in hand, or if we're just going to accept it's going to get discarded. Not a ton of Quick Cast in the hand other than the last movement. So we're just going to float the blue and say that's fine. The whole thing's going to resolve. We lose Professor Shiitake. We lose the blue. We have the Depth card here, which is mainly just useful for getting rid of Regalia, but he doesn't have any right now. It's just a blue card to pitch to a Mirror during that opener if we needed to. And we're going to see a pass. And we're just going to choose to have the Chubby Five-Tailed Fox get expelled. He's going to use Closing the Lock from the Sub-Ruler to make it so I'll lose 100 life for recovering the stone. Doesn't have Fake Silver Key, so can't make me discard something without paying 4 will, so we're pretty safe there. This is probably when Porcelain's going to come down. Either that, or we're going to try to get rid of the... set ourselves up for being able to answer any kind of potential FT one-turn kill. He goes again here. Now, we have Vakis out, so thankfully we're able to get rid of that Gate of the Silver Key. So that's just fully expelled, so that can't be recycled again. So put ourselves in a pretty good spot to keep ourselves advantaged up here. And the reason why Vakis is really good against this Fake Silver Key idea is that if he plays another one while the Vakis is on board, we can just burn coin and God's Art while there's no Umir in the graveyard and get rid of every single copy of Gate of the Fake Silver Key that's in his deck. This puts us in an insanely good position for Umir to just not be able to hit the board without being hardcast, which puts us in a much better position to be able to control the value here. Juicy a Stony King. This is going to try to get rid of my Vakis. He's clearly going to pick the ethereal mode. We're probably also going to pick ethereal here just so we can keep our hand. We don't want to have to discard cards. Going to accept that we're getting hit for a little bit more life total damage. Now we could use the Vakis in response, or we can't even... The problem here with how the consensus works is we can't even use the Vakis to tap and kill the Stony King in response because the ethereal effect happens as he enters. So there's no priority window for me to then be able to use the Vakis. So he's just gone, which is really unfortunate. And then, like I said, we're just going to lose the 400 life. Josh saying, if I can't FTK you, will slowly drain you to death with the Closing a Lock, which I think is the smart play here. Thankfully, we do have a second Vakis to be able to get rid of the Stony King. He does respond by banishing it to do the God's Art, since he doesn't have anything else to do for the turn, just to gain a little bit of extra life and expel the graveyards from the game. And then because we have Lunar Eclipse, we do get to draw 2 and expel 1 at the end of the turn. And we're going to go ahead and expel this Curse of Ragnarok Suya. So feeling pretty good here. We've got 2 will to open. We've got the Vakis to be able to try to answer the Fake Silver Key. You see he doesn't have it there in hand. And Josh right now, not looking too hot. He's got 2 Umirs, an Arlequin, and a Fake Silver Key in hand. Not a great spot for him to be in. Does start by playing the Fake Silver Key, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. He could have done Arlequin first to try to, and then he could have picked Comedy to try to bounce it back to my hand. So then I wouldn't have the Vakis on board to be able to do what I'm about to do, which is Fake Silver Key. So I do the God's Art in response, and Josh kind of realizes, ooh, that was a little bit of a misplay. I'm in trouble here. The inherent strength of my options there is if he does cast the Arlequin, I can just quick cast in the Chubby Five-Tailed Fox in response. So then if I have to bounce something back to my hand, I'll just bounce the Chubby Five-Tailed Fox. So I'm pretty safe from that situation, but it is like at least something Josh could have tried to do before going for this another Fake Silver Key line. So here's the big issue. The God's Art got to resolve, and we ripped every single copy of Fake Silver Key out of Josh's entire list. So I'm going to have to discard a card from the Enter effect for sure, but I now am completely safe from getting, at least unless he's playing the Dreams spell, I'm completely safe from getting Umired, which is huge for me. So he does decide not to discard a card. He only has 3 in hand, and it makes no point to discard a card when he can't revive the Umir with it. So So now Josh is faced with a choice of having to try to figure out exactly how he gets through this position. He's got Arlequin in hand. He's got a Vacus, but it can't hit the other Vacus, at least in terms of its enter effect. He starts to try to cast the Vacus here, and I explained that Vacus can't hit Vacus because it specifically has to be a non-12 sacred Knight entity. And so he goes, okay, well then we'll just cast the Arlequin. We'll go with that instead. So Arlequin's going to get to come down here. We're kind of doing things in the reverse order. If he had cast the Arlequin before, we would have just flashed in the chubby 5-tailed fox to protect the Vacus. So I'm going to bounce something back to my hand, and then at this point in time, discard the Porcelain statue and the chubby 5-tailed fox. So we can recast the Vacus next turn. It's going to rip that Arlequin off the top. Does decide to use closing the lock here to try to judgment Uymir. Wants to throw this guy down to start being able to put pressure down this way. So Yogg-Sothoth coming in here with a bunch of limit counters. He currently is getting plus stat wise because of his sub-ruler. Goes down to counters, sitting at a 20-20. Thankfully no Pierce, which is good, but Uymir now Yogg-Sothoth does now kick down at the end of every single turn and wipe, as you can see on the screen here. So, not a great spot for me to be in. We're a few turns off from it being able to do anything particularly devastating, but if we can keep bodies, like pressure on board, then we're not in a terribly bad spot. We're going to go in for this Vacus again. It's going to be a bit before Uymir can get rid of it, so I'd rather just expel and limit the number of options that Josh has. I know at this point in time, because of that weird sequencing before, he only has a Vacus and then presumably an Uymir, so working off a pretty high amount of hand advantage or hand knowledge here. End of the turn, we're going to go ahead and draw 2 and expel 1. Getting rid of one of the additions. We tick down from Uymir. Or tick down on Yogg-Sothoth. Oh, and Josh draws into another Yogg-Sothoth. So unfortunately, this is just kind of a dead hand. The Vacus can't really hit anything. He doesn't have enough will to be able to cast either of the Uymirs. He wants to try to swing pressure down here, but he's not going to be able to do much that way. I am low on life though, so he at least has closing the lock's ability to make me lose life. So we're going to stat neg the Yogg-Sothoth and then try to block it with Vacus. So this is going to get to remove 2 limit counters from it by the end of the turn, which does put me in a position where if I have another 2-drop next turn, I'm pretty safe. He's going to lock me out of colors, or not make me lose life by recovering entity. And now we're feeling a little bit like we need to start applying pressure and we need to get things online. So we're going to start with getting our Regalia active. Porcelain statue is going to be out here. And we're going to pay a little bit of extra life. It's a little bit risky, but we're going to do this so that we can play the other new card for Valentina that we've already expelled 1 copy of, but it's okay. We only need 1, and Uymir can't pop additions. He does have the Vacus in hand, but by that time we're feeling pretty good that we'll be able to get good value out of it. Going to play Nightmare that engulfed MegaDryBone. So we're going to pay 200 life into it so that we can reveal both of these guys. And we're going to try to start milling them out. And we get the addition here. We go right past it, unfortunately. We'll go back to it. The MegaDryBone here is very helpful because those resonators that have hit the graveyard up to this point, we can use to generate little extra additional tokens. So we can have good blockers against the Uymir and be able to start even just pressuring Josh down. Plus Assassin in general, getting to the more turns we get to make an Assassin token, the faster we mill Josh out, and the better position we are in to just win the deck through deck out too. Draw 2 and expel 1. Getting that last movement out of the way. There is a world where we should have probably kept the last movement to be able to try to save the addition if he tries to go for focus. We could bounce our own thing back to our hand by just burning a water card. But with the amount of will that that Josh has, he could also just use God's Art to do it as well. Plays the Vacus, goes to target the addition. We're going to get some value out of it, though. We had kind of expected this was going to happen. He's going to go for the addition. In response, we're going to try to make a copy. We start to go for the guy that makes him discard a card, but ultimately decide, you know what, probably best to start getting these assassins live since we haven't been able to make an assassin yet. Make a copy of the Assassin of Mool. My handy dandy drawing skills here, thanks to the Infinite token. Look how he's got a knife. We get that out onto the field. And we're gonna get to mill 3 because his X is 0, being a token that was created, and take one card from among it and put it into underneath him. We get to grab a Zakauba, which is a pretty good card for us to grab if the assassin leaves the field. We're also going to make 2 more little 1/1 tokens, Shadow Resonator tokens, thanks to Mool, and then we'll lose our addition. Josh is going to go ahead and burn God's Art to go ahead and get rid of my statues. This totally makes sense. So we're not getting any Regalia this game, or any Sub-Ruler this game. We play a total copy of 3. We've already had 1 expelled. So that third one is gone. And now this is a little bit of a mistake on our part as we come in here to the end of the turn. From our sequencing here and understanding how this Umir works. He knows that he's going to lose the Umir indefinitely, or he's going to lose the Umir at the end of this turn. That's going to happen. Or at least he's going to run out of counters on it at the end of this turn. And so, in very typical fashion, even after 10 years of playing this game, we still get things wrong. He calls Stone with Umir, and then it's going to lose this and lose the tokens. As worded on Umir, it would be at the beginning of your next turn he flips back over. The updated text is at the beginning of the turn he flips back over. So this Umir should technically not be in play right now. And the reason why this is important is because this entire sequence of events on this turn is based on trying to get rid of this Umir permanently when he would actually already be gone because of his own effect. So just keep that in mind as we get things in here. So casting the Arrival of the Conqueror, which triggers Valentina to apply negative stats to the Umir. We're going to look at his hand and make him discard 2 cards, and we're going to try to force him to sack the Vacus. He's going to apply a stat neg of -6/-6 to the guy. No quick cast cards in hand, so I'm pretty confident there. And then, this is also me not understanding how cards work. I cast a Mirror here just to cycle, because in my brain, I've read Valentina 4 as when you cast a water chant, you give something plus stats to its attack, thinking that I could give plus 200 attack back to this soldier, and then it would be able to attack and swing into the get it Bane, essentially, to kill the Umir permanently. And that's not how Valentina works. It does not give buffs to attack. It still gives minus to attack. It is going to be a trade because the Umir doesn't exist. The Umir would technically be alive here because there's no Bane, but also the Umir shouldn't exist. So this is a weird kind of like sequence of events here. And I have a Zakauba because a water fantasy darkness version of Zakauba, thanks to the assassin leaving after milling 5. So weird sequence of events. Ultimately, the long sequence here is that I should still have the assassin because it should have just attacked face, even if it's for 0 damage. The Umir should not be dead, but it would be on its ruler side, and Josh would have 500 less life because it would have been gone at the beginning of the turn. That to be said, this is the sequence that we have now, and you can learn from our mistakes here, and remember that Valentina does not make stuff bigger. Only makes stuff smaller. So feeling pretty good here, though. It's a pretty good spot. We know the hand is pretty unplayable at this point. We're drawing extra cards every single turn. If the Arlequin comes down, we're just going to bounce the addition back to our hand so we can keep the Zacalba. We have the Zacalba. We've got high speed here. We've got Valentina's Reach if we really need to replenish. Although at this point in time, we're not really thinking about we're going to try to replenish. So we'll just pass the turn. If we can find another assassin, we'd be in good shape. We did just find an assassin, which is excellent. So we can try to start milling Josh out that way. Draws in for turn, and we do have to kind of watch out because he does have access to closing the lock, though. That's the biggest piece, is we have to mill Josh before he can close the lock and make us lose a bunch of life, because we're a deck with 0 life gain mainboarded. One could argue that I should be playing Lucifers for additional hand hate and discard at end of turn shenanigans, but I'm not, so that's at least not in this version of the build. Josh sitting here, gonna call Stone. Could pay some life and heal the Umir. Although I think that's on fake. Actually, no. At this point in time, that's on fake silver keys. Those are all gone. So in our playing of the event as is, that Umir is just dead because of the Bane trigger. That shouldn't have happened. Checks Graveyard, checks the Zacalba, thinks about his choices here. Can just start calling Stone and trying to see if he can get to the Umir. You know, pay it for 7. Pretty good spot eventually. He's only a few turns off, and I'm not really pressuring him other than as a Zacalba. Does decide to go for that Arlequin here. Like I said before, we're going to accept that we're going to pick Comedy if he picks Tragedy. We'll bounce the Mule back to our hand, and then we'll discard it plus another card because it served its purpose at this point. Discarding the Valentina's Reach. Without the ability to pay life into it, the X cost is a little bit too pricey, and we're also drawing extra cards every single turn. And he also goes for the God's Art right away, which is pretty cool, just to try to see if he can get something from the top of my deck or the top of his deck. So he's going to expel the top 5 cards of his deck along with the Arlequin, because I'm not going to respond. Hits 3 of his Hounds of Tindalos, or Pack of Hounds, which is not great. And now we get to see what the top 2 cards of the deck are. See a Assassin from my end and a Swiftness Yogg-Sothoth from his end. Now, he can choose to pay the Assassin at this point in time. He does have blue and black. He does have to pay for it. He wouldn't get the ability to make a copy of something when he leaves the field, but he does still get the mill ability, which is kind of nice. So we'll see if Josh decides to play into that. Does have the option to be able to try for it. Doesn't really have much else going on in his hand. It's just 2 Umirs, so it does decide to go ahead and play the Assassin. It's going to mill the top 3 cards in my deck. He can stack a card from underneath it. I don't have any Resonators, and he only gets to mill. He can't stack underneath because he doesn't get to pick both modes. I also will no longer get to pick both modes because I don't have the statue live here. Before recovery, I'm going to cast the mirror to set us both to main phases. We're going to say, get rid of your assassin, please. I like it, not you. Then we're going to play an assassin for ourselves. Just choosing how we want to pay for it, how big of an X cost we want. Ultimately, we want X to be 2. We're just going to mill 5. And I also do something wrong here. So I stack a card from underneath it. Technically shouldn't be able to do that. That requires me to have the statue out at this point in time. I get to pick 1. Ultimately, thankfully, over the course of this match, you will see that it does not matter because I really don't care about stacking something underneath it. I'm just trying to kill him. And because I made the X value of Assassin Symbol 4, I'm safe from getting high-speed uppercutted here. The other thing is true is the Zakalba is a token copy of the Resonator, so Zakalba's cost is also 5. So because it's a token copy of. So right now, high-speed uppercut can't even kill Assassin or Zakalba, which is really good because I don't have a 1-drop Fantasy Resonator that he could target and then kill all of the other parts of it with. So Josh's hand's not great here. He's got Closing the Lock ability, but I don't have enough things tapped. The Umirs aren't castable, because even if he calls Stone, he'll only be at 6. He's got to pitch another key, but that doesn't help him here either. And he can't do multiple Closing the Locks. And he has a high-speed uppercut, which can't kill the thing that's trying to mill him out. So at the end of Josh's turn, as he leaves his main phase, because I mirrored us, so we're still locked into the end of the turn. So as we leave his main phase, I'm going to try to cast High-Speed Uppercut treatment for the mode to rip a card. The reasoning behind this is Josh currently has 6 cards left in his deck. I need to successfully remove a card from his deck in this moment, and if so, I can win the deck game via deck out. I know there's 2 Umirs in his hand. I know where the other cards are between Expel and RFG. We know that at this point in time, we're feeling pretty confident with what the call is, so we are going to try to name Ray Asnable at resolution. The hope is that we just need to hit a single Ray Asnable out of the deck at this point. He does not have one in hand. He does have one in deck, leaving him with exactly 5 cards left in his deck, which puts us in a position to just deck him out with the Assassin, which is what we were trying to do here to win us our game and push us into game 2. So you'll see us go to draw for turn, recover, and then we just swing in with the Assassin after calling Stone. Mill Josh out. And we go into game 2. So in game 2 here, our goal is the same. We are going second again, but our goal is still to, first things first, stop Josh from trying to pull off the FTK or the 1-turn kill with fake silver key. And once we get the fake silver key situation signed out on, we should be fine. You see, we have sideboarded posts, so you see some things which should help me a lot. We've got ice shards to be able to help. We've also brought in Ray Asnables to stop enter effects. Things designed to give me more options to be able to stop him from pulling off the combo, since we unfortunately cannot get access to our sub-ruler to start things off. One thing to note about this is there's no way to reduce the judgment cost of Val 4 or Val 3, so it can be a little bit tricky if you're going second to actually get the Regalia live. But thankfully, as a sub-ruler, but thankfully the Regalia itself is still very good. Giving you that X cost piece is still very helpful. So we're going in for Josh, going on his first turn. Goes for a life loss approach here with Throm's Pack of Hounds to say, look, it worked pretty well. We just needed a little bit more burn last time to try to get rid of it. So, finish me off. So we're just going to start with the Throm's Pack of Hounds and start the life loss out super early. We'll have Closing the Lock to be able to help us there as well. Ultimately choosing to pass the turn there. Setting ourselves up very nicely with ice shards. Kind of the idea with ice shards here is if we do it in response to a silver key, we let him discard the Umir, and then if he tries to go for paying 900 life to reanimate it, we try to tap the ice shards, giving Josh an opportunity to, if he wants, pay another 900 life again, at which point we do the Unchaseable God's Art. So then we get 1800 life out of Josh there in a really nice pattern. So it goes for Arlequin. We're gonna pick Comedy and so that we don't have to discard 4 cards, but we will have to discard 2 to Tragedy, which is just fine. Gonna do closing the locks on us before recovery, but we didn't have anything to recover, so we just get to move on. Now, Josh could have swung in there, but he risks me having, something quick cast. We're gonna go for this Rayman here. Does leave us a little bit more vulnerable to fake silver key because we're fully tapped out, but Josh doesn't look like he has it in hand right now, so that puts us in a good position. Goes to recover. Has the gate of the silver key here, so he could certainly have cheated that in at the beginning of the turn. Although it doesn't do a ton here unless he has fake silver key to make it so he just pays just by banishing the card. Josh asked me a question here to make sure on when beginning of game triggers happens. Or beginning of turn triggers happens. And Josh is in an interesting position here where if he tries to go for Rayman, like get Rayman off the board with the Umir, he could do that this turn through closing the lock, which would help him. But then the following turn would kill his Arlequin, and the following turn after that would kill his Hounds. And the Hounds is doing a lot of work right now. So he's not necessarily sure if he wants to flip Umir. And as you see, he decides there ultimately to go ahead and just call Stone. Does decide to hard cast the gate of the silver key here. Does make his judgment cost 1 less for moving forward. Ultimately decides at that point in time whether or not he wants to push any other pressure on field or just pass the turn. Does decide to pass. Also here sacrificing the gate of the silver key. Make me discard a card. Discarding the Valentina's Reach, not going to get much value out of it this game. Does do closing the locks to make me lose a little bit of extra life before recovery. Now we start to go for a line here, but ultimately we choose to pass the turn. We could have tried to swing in with Rayman here, which would get the, which would probably result in a trade with the Pack of Hounds, but right now we're feeling pretty okay. Stopping any enter effects. Now Josh does draw into a card here that we did not see in game one, a Charger of the Beast of War. So that could be potentially really bad. Gate of the Silver Key gets to come back for free. Gonna get to rip more cards out of my hand. Does have a mirror in hand as well here to be able to protect himself a little bit. Swings in with Arlequin. We're gonna go ahead and block with the Arlequin. We see that's fine. We'll get that off the board. Now, if this does leave us vulnerable to this Pack of Hounds, if he wants to swing it in, he can. But at that point in time, we've gotten 2 bodies off of the board, and we do have access to a bunch of tools in hand as well to be able to try to further answer Gate of the Silver Key, like our own mirror, or sorry, Fake Silver Key, like our own mirror to just expel it. Like I said, the Ice Shards to be able to mess with his graveyard. Ultimately, Josh decides to just go ahead and flip over the Umir. Go into Yogg-Sothoth. It's going to get to kill my Rayman at the end of the turn and represent pretty much lethal damage on board. Because I'm going to lose 3 from the from the Pack of Hounds. Closing the lock is going to probably hit me for some more damage. Next turn, Umir's going to be able to swing for 20, and the Pack of Hounds will be able to swing for 3, so that's representing, 26 essentially. Does decide to go into combat to swing at the Ray Asnable, or maybe even at my face. We respond by just hard casting a high-speed uppercut treatment because we do not want to get mirrored and we want that off the board. So we each gain 200 life. Ray Asnable gets killed at the end of the turn thanks to the Umir trigger. It's going to make me discard a card before recovery. Closing the lock to make me lose some life. A lot of good pressure coming down here from Josh. We're going to go for Porcelain Statue. And then try to go for a Nightmare that engulfed DeMeulle here to try to once again set ourselves up to be able to block the Umir with something that has Bane. And start setting up our little cycle of free guys. We get the DeMeulle from the graveyard. End of the turn, we're going to draw 2, expel 1. But Josh says, at the end of the turn, we're going to try to do Charger of War. Summon the Charger of War. It doesn't have quick cast, so he can't do that right now. So it's a little bit of a telegraph there, which is nice. We draw 2 and expel 1. And we made a bit of a mistake here discarding that Zacky's new plan. We are currently tapped out. We have a way to make up a blocker, which is fine, but we're not in a great spot because of how much life we have left, being fully tapped out with that Summon the Charger of War. Josh is actually in a position where, because of closing the lock, making me discard cards and everything else, Josh actually has game here. All he has to do, doesn't have to swing at all. He could even just call Stone. It's totally fine. Call Stone with Umir, summon the Charger of War to shoot me for 2,000, and then closing the lock makes me lose the last of my life as soon as I recover my stones. So summon the Charger of War is going to take me down to 200, and then I recognize, oh yeah, closing the lock just kills me there, so I will go ahead and concede it, and we go into game 3. So in game 3 here, we do get to go first, so we get to have that sub-ruler Porcelain Statue online right out the jump, which is very, very helpful. Being able to pay those X costs with life right out the gate is very, very good for being able to get the resource value online early, getting things like the Addition live, getting things like Assassin live faster and faster is really good. Unfortunately, our start's pretty slow here, so we just had to call Stone pass. We see a Gate of the Silver Key from Josh. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about getting FTK'd, right? That's the nice part here, and Josh doesn't currently have a setup to be able to avoid the will cost of things. So that Gate of the Silver Key loses to Asuya, can't be banished, doesn't make me discard, and we get to leave open will there to be able to respond. So really good spot for us to be kind of out the jump, getting that sub-ruler out of the way. Like, not having to deal with that right from the gate means that we're not getting life loss with closing the lock from Josh. We don't have to deal with fake silver key. We can just kind of take our time and respond to things that way. You know, leaving things like mirror and stuff, if we can mirror the regalia to stop it from being able to come in, if we can expel it from the game if he discards it, all kinds of cool things that we can do to try to keep our setup going here. Call Stone from Josh. Do see he has a Zakalba in hand, he has the Regalia in hand, he has a Ray Asnable in hand, ultimately does just choose to pass the turn. Calling another Stone on our end. We're going to go ahead, and Valentina is one of the rulers who really benefits from having both sides of Porcelain Statue live here. That ability to tap and destroy a Resonator whose attack is modified works really well with Valentina's ability to manipulate stats by just casting Chance. So we get that out, we can start swinging in for 500 and puts us in a position where you see we have access to multiple different Chance, we have the tap ability, so we're in a pretty good potential for controlling the board state afterwards. End of the turn, we're going to see him just cycle with Mirror just to try to draw into something a little bit better, locking us to main phases. This was at the end of my turn. Thankfully, he did get another Mirror back, so it's a nice position for him to be in, not having to worry about having lost a point of interaction. Most of his stuff in his hand, you can see, though, is like chance speed. It's 2 Umirs, it's Sub-Ruler, Regalia, it's a Yogg-Sothoth, the Swiftness version. I will note that one thing to note is this game 3 was actually recorded on a second day. We came back and got in a third game so we could see who got it there, which is why you've seen some changes in the clothes. And also, we did a little bit more education about reminding us exactly how the updated text of Yogg-Sothoth works on his J-Ruler side, so we catch that as well. It doesn't play into it as much as it did in game 1. So Josh really kind of wondering what he wants to do here. He can try to go for a judgment here if he can get into the fake silver key, or sorry, the silver key sub-ruler. So silver key gets cast here, and then he can use it to try to produce will with closing the lock, and we're not going to burn any resources to stop it, so we're going to let him go ahead and get Yogg-Sothoth out. So now he actually gets his sub-ruler. That's an unchaseable fate trigger, so he gets the sub-ruler active, but we're not terribly too concerned with that because he's already judgmented, so he's essentially skipped a scone call for the turn to be able to do this, which puts us in a pretty good spot. Resource-wise, we're kind of up. We have the ability to manipulate stuff. We've got cards we can cast from hand. We've still got access to mirror. We've got Umir. We've got Ray Asnables in hand. He has to find a silver key at this point. So he does flip the Umir, but it's not super threatening. We have a lot of ways to be able to still block it without really being terribly too concerned. So he just loses the counter. We go to our turn. For recovery, we're going to go ahead and flat attempt to just kill the Yogg-Sothoth. We have Statue of the Misty Dragon. We have a ruler, water ruler with Judgment. We're going to try to rest it down. He does have the Curse Mirror to stop us, unfortunately, but it was worth a shot. Like, if that got to resolve, you know, the Yogg's just gone, and then at that point in time, the match is probably over. Just for sheer value-wise, there's no pressure. He won't have a large creature to be able to do Charger of War against me with. We've got the ways to be able to stop the Umir cycling. It'd be pretty similar to how kind of the end of game 2 went. We're going to be a little bit greedy here because he's tapped out, and because of the fact that Asnable is bigger than his Yogg-Sothoth will be able to go. We get to swing in for 5 here. Now, Josh has to kind of take it, because if he doesn't, he either takes it, blocks the Suya, kills it, and then gets flipped back and loses 500 at the start of his turn, or doesn't take it and then kills the Suya that way. So feels pretty good for us there. In response to the beginning of turn trigger from the sub-ruler to bring back Gate of the Silver Key, we're going to flash in Accursed Ice Shards and then use its tap ability to get the Gate of the Silver Key out of the way. We do not want to be dealing with that nonsense. And this also means that if we can kind of safely block with our Ray Asnable, because we still have a way to be able to interact with the graveyard if he tries to go for a silver key line here. That being said, if he swings with the Umir, or that he's down 2 stones, only 2 stones, we can just block with the Asnable. It's fine. The Umir goes back. He's going to lose 500 life. He'll still be tapped. He'll be at 2 will. Silver key. Closing the lock won't really help him here, and we're in a position where we can just kind of compete. Like, it'll be 2 stones to our 5, and that's just not a good position for Josh to be in, though. So while he's flipped, it might just make the most sense for Josh to go ahead and call stone here, just so he's not so far behind. He does going to lose the Umir at the end of the turn, at the beginning of my turn, which is, you know, unfortunate, but he does have to, like, not get just drowned out by resources. Does decide to actually swing in here, and we say, you know what, we're going to take the 2,000. There's no red here. You don't have access to a Charger of War at this point in time. So we're going to say, you know, if you want to be down on will, we're going to be up on cards, up on will, and we'll just answer anything you're going to do there. He closes the lock on us here, so we're going to lose some life. We're going to lose a total of 500 to closing the locks. We hit a Black Pearl. We're going to try to get into a little bit of a race now. We're going to swing in for 9. We have high-speed uppercut here to be able to try to answer something, which is fine. If he gets into it, you know, we've got an answer for things like if he tries to go in for a heavy life loss engine with the pack of hounds. We have high speed to be able to answer it without having to tap stuff down. He's going to do high speed uppercut against us, and he's going to call Suya. They're going to say, like, that's fine, that can resolve, we'll hit the Suyas. So we lose all 3 of our Suyas because we're playing 3 in this deck. We're playing 4 main boarded, but we had sideboarded 1 out to bring in some of the other pieces. And so we're at a pretty good spot. Fishing spot in our hand is not super great here. We would have loved to have, you know, been able to expel that off the bottom, but unfortunately that's just not going to happen. That being said, it can serve us pretty decently well based on if we get an opportunity to kind of pressure Josh down here. At the end of the turn, we get to draw 2 and expel 1. Choosing to get rid of this 1-hit KO anesthesia. Not really doing much good for us here. And again, if he tries to go into a heavy line of pack of hounds, we can just pitch the high-speed uppercut to get all of them off the board. So it feels pretty good. Now, once again, Josh is really low on will here. This is not a good spot for him to be in. If he wants to try to Judgment, it's pretty much his only thing he will be able to do. If he wants to try to go into like a fake Silver King line, he's not in a good spot there. Risks paying a lot of life, can really only afford to pay to try to reanimate an Umir once, which because we have Ice Shards, we're in a good spot to be able to answer it. So a little bit of a weird race here. Goes in for another fake Silver Key. This can be helpful for him eventually to heal his Astral Ruler, but Umir's not Astral right now. So we say, you know what, we try to think about doing something against this in high-speed uppercut, or maybe a Zacky's new plan to try to stop it. But we ultimately go, you know what, actually, we're just going to let this resolve. We're going to accept that we're going to have to discard a card. We're going to discard a Vacus and say you have to discard a card too. Now he discards the Umir, which is fine because 1, the Umir doesn't do anything right now anyway, and 2, if it enters because of the Ray Astable, and 2, if it doesn't enter, then if he does, you know, pay life for it, then we get to just remove it from the game. In response to him trying to reanimate it with Ice Shards. So like we've set up a little kind of preventative lock here. The only big risk here is that tapping too many things does set us up for some scary positioning thanks to closing the lock. So he produces the extra will off of closing the lock here. Goes to Judgment. Lives himself with X is 3, so X plus 1 is 4. So at the end of the turn, he'll kill the Ray Asdable. At the end of the turn, in response, we're going to go ahead and use the Ice Shards to target the Umir. And the reason we're doing this now is because if he wants to try to reanimate it using the fake Silver Key effect, the Ray Asdable is still alive. So we're feeling pretty good there. We're also going to try to cast in Chubby Five-Tailed Fox to try to get rid of the Ray Asdable so we can get some value off of it. But Josh does have a Ray Asdable of his own to stop the Enter effect. Ultimately, this is fine. It gets us another body on board. We recognize we're going to have to lose that. Goes down to 3. But then still at the end of his turn, we're going to go ahead and make a really risky play here. We are going to use and just fully tap out, recognizing we're going way low on life. We're going to use the fishing spot of Zhang Zia's inheritance effect with a Y value of 2. We are going to put 4 tokens onto the field. We are going to try to represent 1600 damage on Josh's board right this second. He only has 1 blocker. He doesn't have anything that's quick cast, most likely. If he does, we can go ahead and go into Terrifying. We can go ahead and try to rip that out of the hand. Thanks to Arrival of the Conqueror here. He does use Closing the Lock before recovery, so we are going to lose some life. We lose 600, go down to 700. And now here's a little bit of a sequencing thing. So this is, again, a good educational moment. Arrival of the Conqueror is going to get cast. We're thinking about what modes we're going to choose here. We start to think about giving the +X +O and Terrifying, but here's the thing. Terrifying only means that resonators of total cost of who total cost 1 or less, or who have less attack than the thing with Terrifying can block. J rulers are, according to the CR, as you'll see us kind of look up here during the match, J rulers can ignore Terrifying. It does not impact them. They are able to block even if something has Terrifying, which is kind of really relevant here. If Terrifying was just anything, then the fact that Umir is a 0 cost because it's a J ruler means that these tokens would just be able to swing in for 1600 damage, and that's lethal. Now, that being said, we're still in a pretty good spot. We just are really vulnerable to not killing him because of a closing the lock. That is the biggest piece here. Like, that's the way that Josh is going to try to kill us here. So we're looking things up in the CR as we quickly dig through. But the ultimate answer is that the text of Terrifying is that resonators who have less attack than or are cost 1 or less cannot block something with Terrifying. So J rulers are still completely safe. So we do choose the modes to still look at his hand, and ultimately we're going to also grab 2 resonators back from the graveyard and put it in hand, grabbing Vacus and Ray Asdable back to hand. So they don't super do a ton, but the Vacus is very helpful here, given that we also have the Porcelain statue to be able to try to manipulate something's stats. So if he can't kill it, nothing quick cast there. He has an Umir, a Zakalba, and the Yogg-Sothoth. So we'll play the Vacus. We'll get rid of the fake silver key. Yeah, it's the only thing we can get rid of at this point in time. We're not going to get rid of our own things for sure. And now we get to kind of manipulate Josh's position a little bit, which is helpful for us. We can swing in for 4. If he tries to block, this means that Yogg-Sothoth's going to go down to 2. If we're going to swing in for 2 with the chubby 5-tailed fox, he's going to take that. We're going to swing with another 4. Takes him down to 6. Swing with another 4. Here. Takes him down to 2. If he decides to block, he goes down to 2 counters. So here's the piece. He takes that one. We swing in with the last token. If he decides to block, this takes him down to 2 limit counters, which means at the end of the turn, he'll go down to 1 limit counter, which means that he won't get to destroy any of my board. If he leaves it at otherwise, he dies. So this protects the Vacus. I lose the token. That's totally fine. He goes down to 1. I keep the board alive. He'll kill the tokens at the end of the turn, but that's okay. We go down to 1. We don't lose anything. The Vacus gets to survive. And now we have this nice little setup where we've got statue plus Vacus who can block the Yogg-Sothoth even after tapping, which is pretty great. I do forget to do Lunar Eclipse here, but we'll catch that I do it later with some sequencing pieces. Again, though, that's just because Josh is great and lets me do missed triggers in a tournament setting. That is something mandatory. Before recovery, though, because I don't want closing lock to kill me, we're going to use high speed uppercut during his turn to destroy all of my tokens, so I have fewer things. Well, I'm going to destroy them. They're going to get destroyed anyway, and gain 200 life. So the idea here being that, like, hey, we have now only 5 things that are going to recover under closing the lock, so we will live at 400 life, whereas we don't get absolutely destroyed by 7 things recovering thanks to the tokens. So just trying to set ourselves up for the most possible success here too. We have Josh's kind of in higher hand. We don't know the top deck. It happened to be another fake silver key, the card that he plays a bunch of copies of, but he doesn't have a way to push through damage in hand right now because of the fact that he's so low on will. He doesn't have Charger of War. He doesn't have something that has Pierce. Vacus can block even if he's tapped. Like, we're in a pretty good spot. Zakalba, Yogg-Sothoth doesn't do much here. You'd have to call Stone if you wanted to awaken it. At that point in time, there's really not much he can do, and even then, he also doesn't want to give himself more attack because that means it's different than his printed attack, and I can just tap. The also problem is at the beginning of my next turn, Yogg-Sothoth will be at 0 counters, and as such, even before I draw, Yogg-Sothoth will flip back face down and flip back to his ruler side and make Josh lose 500 life, which will kill him. So this is Josh's last turn. Just because of the life position. He's just not in a good spot, and the Umir is dead in hand. The Yogg is dead in hand. The Zakalba can certainly help here. The Fake Silver Key could maybe draw him into something, but we'll see what plays out. Looks at the situation, looks at his life total. He's got to figure something out here. Goes for Fake Silver Key. In response to the enter effect of Fake Silver Key, we're just going to let it resolve. We'll discard the Mool, seeing if he's going to choose to discard a card. He says, nope, that's fine. I'll choose to discard the Umir just in case, just even though I can't reanimate it right now unless I gain a bunch of life. Which just feels fine for me. We're still at a position where at the end of the turn, the Umir is going to kill Josh. He's got to find a way to almost flip Umir back on his own, so that it doesn't trigger that effect. He can call a stone here, now that he's got Fake Silver Key out, so that does give him one more will to be able to work with without having to tap. So that puts him in maybe a bit of a better position. Starts by calling that stone, hits another blue-black. If it had been a blue-red, then there's a world where it's, try to play Zakalba, try to Charger of War. But he plays, because of the discount, he goes for a Zakalba. And now we see what he's going to try to draw into, although ultimately, because it does cost, he does just pay the life portion. He pays 300 life. He doesn't have to pay the will part. He just pays 300 life, goes down to 1. In response to the cast of the Zakalba, we're going to go ahead and try to remove those 2 cards from the graveyard. And then, this is in response to the God's Art, I believe, or to the activate ability. We're going to go ahead and expel those 2 cards and then use the God's Art of Shards to try to expel everything and draw a card before the discard at random. This is also the point where we catch that I forgot to do the Lunar Eclipse, and we do that part 2 here because, again, Josh is great in being willing to be flexible, although, again, shouldn't do that. It's a mistrigger. I should get a game warning. But the ultimate part here, it doesn't really matter. Essentially, what I'm trying to do here is draw into a spell that I can cast, a chant that I can cast to try to manipulate the stat value. And I completely forgot that I just have Vakis. Vakis can manipulate the stats of Zakalba, and then Statue can kill it. The reason why this is important is because Zakalba at the end of the turn is going to put extra counters, extra limit counters on the... it put extra limit counters on... Umir. Like, that's the biggest problem. So, but we cast the mirror, which also prevents us from being hit by closing the lock, ironically enough, because we lock ourselves to main phases. We manipulate the stats of Zakalba, and then we can use Porcelain Statue to kill the Zakalba. He draws a card because I discarded a card. And then he draws into a Pack of Hounds and an Asdable. Asdable doesn't help here at all. Pack of Hounds does. Before we leave his main phase, we're going to use the statue because we can't do anything in end step. He plays the Pack of Hounds. We say that's fine. Does not matter. End of turn, or before leaving the main phase, because we're locked out of end phase stuff thanks to mirror, we're going to use Porcelain statue to kill the Zakalba, because its stats are different, which then means that the Umir does not get to have an added counter on it, which means it goes down to 0 at end of turn, which means Josh will lose 500 life at the beginning of my turn, and that is the match. It was a really long slog. Thank you all for tuning in here for our match that marks the 10-year anniversary of us playing FOW here on the channel. Hope you guys liked it. Deck profiles will be up later this week, and until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.